I spoke to him yesterday. Couldn't have been nicer.
Donald Trump preparing to sit down with a newly elected neighbor.
I think we're going to have a great relationship. He called me up yesterday. He said, let's make a deal.
He being Mark Carney. Trump spoke to the Prime Minister after the Liberal Party won the election, and they agreed to meet.
He's a very nice gentleman, and he's going to come to the White House very shortly, within the next week or less.
That trip, one of Carney's top priorities. He spent the day working in his office after campaigning on a promise to take on Trump and win.
President Trump is trying to break us so that America can own us. That will never ever happen.
In his victory speech, Carney called it a hinge moment in history, where the old relationship with the U.S. is over and it's time to make a new deal.
We are over the shock of the American betrayal. We have to look out for ourselves.
Asked today if he's interested in rebuilding relations with Canada, Trump weighed in on the election results.
It was the one that hated Trump, I think the least that won. I actually think the Conservative hated me much more than the so-called liberal. He's a pretty liberal guy.
When Carney sits down with Trump, he says it will be to negotiate a future economic and security relationship as sovereign nations, and the stakes are high.
The government will have to be very clear about what it's prepared to negotiate that can be mutually beneficial for both countries, and not waver from that, and not get distracted by any externalities or by any new statements.
One of those statements released yesterday, a White House spokesperson said that the election does not affect President Trump's plan to make Canada America's 51st state.
Ashley, how is Prime Minister Carney spending his first days in office?
Well, a government source says he's focusing on the U.S. file and at the same time getting briefings, speaking to world leaders like the president of Ukraine, and working on his transition. Carney has to choose his team around him and could build a new cabinet all before a new session of Parliament is expected to start on May 26. He's also expected to hold a press conference this week to share his priorities.
Ashley, thank you very much. Ashley Burke is in Ottawa. Mark Carney made big promises during the election campaign, and Peter Armstrong is looking into those. You've been saying all week that the winning was the easy part. Yeah. Now the challenges begin.
Not only that, the clock is really ticking here, right? Carney's whole pitch is that he's an economist, he's an expert, he's navigated all these crises before. Well, now comes, as you say, the hard part, actually doing the work, seeing all this through. Every business association in the country has one of these lists, and I've been going through them of their priorities. And a lot of these lists align pretty well, and they also happen to match up pretty well with the party platform, specifically the platform the Liberals campaigned on.
Carney says that he'll be moving quickly to get some sort of a deal on tariffs, on trade with the Trump administration. But there has to be some progress done domestically too, sure. Right?
There does, and that domestic aspect was a key plank in the Liberal platform, strengthen the Canadian economy so you could sort of blunt the impact of all the tariffs. And we know the hits of those, right? Remove the longstanding interprovincial trade barriers. Carney says he wants to turn Canada into some kind of an energy superpower. If you're going to do that, you got to speed up the approvals process, military spending, for example, and focus out on Canadian procurement, Canadian companies that make armored vehicles and drones and equipment. All of these lists, though, sort of at the heart of them are industries and sectors and businesses waiting to see if this Prime Minister is going to make good on these promises and actually get things moving.
And if the economic data that we're getting these days, even today, is any indication, that's only going to add to the pressure.
Right. I think there's a question at the heart of all of this as to whether Carney can get something done to boost growth before Canada slips into a recession. Because as you say, the economy is quite weak. GDP numbers out today showed the economy actually contracted in February. There's no cushion here, Heather. And, on the political side of this, there's an awful lot of skepticism that the Carney government's going to be any different from the Trudeau government. And I think in a lot of ways, progress on these files that we're talking about won't just address the economic problems. They might well address some of the political problems as well.
Thank you, Peter.
You bet.